And we're back. This is the great classic rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul with zero, the null set of qualifications.
Yes, and we're hoping that Steve will be joining us sometime soon. We haven't heard from him, but we'll see what happens. We will carry on nonetheless. We talk anything and everything classic rock. We try to keep it interesting. We try to have fun. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We will love you for that. Also, share the video, send it to your friends. Tell them what a dork what a dork I am. Okay, tonight's topic. I don't know that we've ever talked about Metallica all that much, so we decided to do a deep dive and talk about Metallica, and especially how, as we went from our 20s to our 30s to our 40s, how Metallica factored in. So we can talk about your favorite songs, or we can just talk about songs that happened along the way and how they impacted us. So I think that it would be criminal if we did not at least begin with a little 80s history. The 80s, pre internet, you and
Are,
I used
are you going to
to,
go to the mutual shaming?
yes, I am. I have.
Good boy.
Uh,
Good
you
boy.
and I, back in the probably the better part of the 80s, 84, 85, and all the way through the rest, we would make Saturdays a regular, I don't want to call it a shopping day. We would go mall hopping, but we would hit on all the CD stores, record and CD stores. And it seems like every mall would have two or three. And then there would also be several others like standalones. So we could spend the better part of a day going record and CD shopping. And I also want to point out for those who don't really get this whole timeline, 86, at least for the purposes of commercial availability, 86 was the beginning of CDs. They may have existed prior to that, but by 86, they were in the stores and they were selling and they were taking the place of records. Prior to 1986, none of that was happening yet. Okay. So we would go record shopping and we would usually eat lunch while we were out and, just sort of make a day out of it. We did this a lot. And it's important to note that because there was no internet, walking into a record store and looking at the display right at the front of the store titled new releases, that's how we found out what was new. There was no Amazon or any other websites that were pointing us to all of the new releases that were just about to hit the stores. So it was a very different time. And I also want to include that because, especially the second half of the 80s, there was this phenomenon known as hair bands, or more specifically, hair metal. And there were so many of these bands, and they usually looked alike, three or four guys with long hair. They kind of looked alike. And they were mostly, I would describe as posers. You can correct me if I'm getting any of that wrong. There was not a lot of deep musical talent. They just tried to sort of sound like each other. And generally speaking, none of them would sell a lot of records or have a lot of hit songs, and they would sort of disappear. And so, what you and I were guilty of at that time was incorrectly assigning poser status to at least one or perhaps more than one band that really didn't deserve that categorization. Am I saying it right so far?
Yeah, I think because I remember, I think it was the Boynton Mall. Correct me. We walked and there was a long list, and I don't know if they had a release party but it was sort of on a Saturday, or were there tickets on sale? I don't know what it was, but there's a bunch of people and they all look kind of, I don't know. And they all had long hair and they had Metallica. I was like,
Yeah,
Metallica?
Metallica. Well, I also should include this. One of the habits of a lot of these poser bands was they would try to incorporate the word metal into the title of the band.
Yeah.
Metal church, and when it was always metal something. And I was just going, God, they're such wannabes. I mean, they're so fake. They try to wear the disguise. It's a charade. They have the long hair. They wear the right clothes. Their music's not good, and so we would see all this Metallica stuff, which at the time I guess we didn't even know how to pronounce it. But I just grouped them in with all of the other fake metal bands who were trying to look and sound tough. And so I never took them seriously as a band. And I also want to emphasize, at least at that time, rock radio and classic rock radio, they were not
Yeah.
playing Metallica. So you had no, if you didn't buy their CDs, you had no method, no avenue to hear their music.
Yeah. And the people back then, I don't know, because see, you remember back then Kenny was Mr. West Palm Beach and he was a gigantic, and he started to take me under his wing. So it was funny how none of these people worked out and they all had long hair and
Right.
it's like, hold it, would I let my sister go or no, whatever, without with no. And now remember, Kenny, I'm much more of a heavy metal fan than Kenny is. Kenny
Right.
likes, but I'm a hardcore as it gets. And if I
Right.
had actually heard of someone, I would have said this is pretty good. But I never gave them the chance. So that's my mistake, our
Right.
mistake.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah, we
gonna
can both
throw this back.
we both have to own that. Yeah.
Oh no, I totally own it.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you, when was it me who got you to listen to them first, or how did you
No.
come to who?
Okay. Well,
Who?
that question right there is going to be the perfect lead in to me going to my very first song. So I'm going to title this video "Why This Metallica Song Is Epic." That's going to be the title of tonight's video. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to begin with my specific usage of the word epic. Okay. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and people will use it just to describe anything that's sort of awesome. Did you see that movie? It was epic. But I'm using it with a specific meaning within, not just within the music universe, but within the rock music universe. Okay. When we refer to a song as epic, I'm going to give you a few examples: Hotel California, Layla, um,
Yeah, way to heaven.
Freebird. Yeah, it's songs that are not only phenomenal rock songs, but they tend to be significantly longer than the average 3 or 4 or
Yes.
even 5 minutes. They're usually 6, 7, 8 minutes, sometimes 9 minutes. And now here's the important part: you can take a 3 minute song and stretch it into 4 or 5 or 6 minutes if you want, but you when you listen to it, you go, it was good enough at 3. It didn't need to be longer than 3. It was 3 minutes.
I'm good up at
But
three.
right, it's a pop song. But these epic songs that are 6 or 7 or 8 minutes, if you were to make that shorter, it would be a crime. You
Yeah.
would be taking away. That song needs to be that long in order to deliver what it has. What it has, it has to be. So when I say why this Metallica song is epic, I want to draw emphasis to the fact that they've got so many great songs that are 6, 7, and 8 minutes long, and you cannot edit those songs down without taking the life out of that song. Are we in agreement?
Agreed, 100%.
Okay, good. All right. So my introduction would have been 91. Of course, it was the Black Album. I
Right.
knew that those 80s albums existed. I had never heard one of them. I had never even heard a song from one of them. Okay. The Black Album, I understand, 91, I understand that it's one of those love it or hate it kind of things. For me, it was a watershed moment because I would have never even considered listening to Metallica except for the fact that I'm hearing these songs. And, I was working in a club at the time where a lot of the songs from that album were getting played. And I kept saying to myself, I can't believe how many great songs are on this album. Of course, it started with Enter Sandman,
Right.
and that was not only getting played on the rock radio stations, but it was all over MTV. And look, if you're a fan of rock music, it's really difficult not to like that song. It's really good. Okay, so I am going to start my contribution to tonight's Metallica epic songs with Enter Sandman. It's probably universally the one that's most recognized. I'm not saying it's the best. Maybe it is, but that song deserves so much credit for introducing the world to this band that they had been missing out on for the previous decade. And that includes, you and I also. And so, having now heard Enter Sandman with a bunch of the other songs from the Black Album, my mind was now open to saying, I guess I have to go back now and listen to this stuff that I was laughing at, that I was poking fun at back in the 80s. And then just to add a few more comments to Enter Sandman, it just has so many of the elements that a great rock song has. Okay, it has the fierce, powerful vocals. It rocks hard. It has the lyrics, the dark lyrics. It just has everything. I can't really think of anything that I would add or change about that song that could make it better. I just think it was such a grand slam home run for a band who had been around for 10 solid years and just needed to break through. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, this goes back to you. I didn't even think of it until you brought it up. Lyrics. So this song is like everybody knows. Like, lay me down, put my head to sleep. You got sand in your eye. The Sandman come. Isn't there Roy Orbison? The Sandman comes and I
Oh,
dream. So this song almost like it's the opposite end of the spectrum of that Roy Orbison song,
right, right.
and that's why it's
Wow,
kind of
good catch. I never thought of that. Good catch.
it's a universal thing that everyone knows about. Going to sleep, and it's like it's one of these primal fears that we all have. You
Hold on,
know,
hold on, hold on. Isn't it? Doesn't it go a candy coated clown they call the Sandman? Something
Sandman,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Blue Velvet,
Yes, yes. Oh my God,
yeah.
yes.
So that he puts them up, and they beat up the boy, they beat
Right,
up Kyle MacLachlan.
right.
Um, so I because I think the stuff earlier was there are other we could get to that in a minute, but they are very well read. They read H.P. Lovecraft, and they have a
Yep,
whole album, Call of Cthulhu, and all these things. And
yep.
they're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff. Let's skip that. I'm joking, Metallica, and write this song that everybody knows about, like you know, Sandman, and then I think they also figured out with the melodies. Like that melodies are simple but powerful melody to that song.
Right.
Da da da. It's just like it's a. I met somebody. As a matter of fact, I met their backup. They have a backup drummer. He used to work out at this workout place in Coral Springs, Florida. And he said that now this is him talking. They got a lot of their influences from classical music. If you start thinking it, you listen, you can hear stuff and
Yes,
how
I
and how they're
agree.
orchestrally designed.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And
Something
so
you don't
I'm trying to
necessarily expect from a heavy metal band.
write, but what you said earlier about their craft. And now I'm trying to think of my first. Uh, I think I dated this girl, Cassandra. Oh, sorry, she was awesome, but she's the one who started talking about them a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, Kitty's going to make so much fun of me. So I went out and bought And Justice for All.
Okay.
And it's like, I don't know, 48 minutes because one had already been on MTV,
Yeah.
the video for one.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is heavy stuff. So I
Heavy.
went and
Heavy.
I
Yeah.
bought the album, and the album is just like 47 minutes of greatness. It's just,
Yes.
and Steve, who's not on the thing tonight, goes, like he was being critical of it, but in a weird way, goes, it's like one long song, like the whole album. And I'm like, that goes back to the orchestral stuff, the Bach, Beethoven, where it's
Yeah.
this long thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I see what Steve's saying. I take
I
his
get it
point,
too. Yeah. I never thought of that, but I
but
get it.
so like if okay, so that's my first. And I got to the point where I couldn't live without hearing that album like once a week. Like,
Oh, and Justice
but
for
then
All.
yeah,
Okay,
and then I
all right.
bought. And I think that album, the Black Album, is the album that came after and Justice for All. I think I'm right, but I could be
That's
wrong.
correct. That's 100% correct. Yeah.
Now, do you know all the comedy behind the Black Album?
Comedy?
Yeah, major comedy.
I do not.
What you need to do this weekend is go back and watch Spinal Tap.
Okay.
And in Spinal Tap, they have an album that's all black.
Oh, okay.
And that's where Metallica got the idea of copying Spinal Tap. And the bottom was a right hand corner, that little snake on the Black Album. And I
Right.
forget what it is. So they got that from Spinal Tap.
I did not know that.
So, smell the glove, this goes to 11 with that stuff, Spinal Tap. So, yeah, so that's the story behind the cover of that album. And that album had, well, God, I can't remember all the songs on it right now. I should have done more preparation, but I have that
That's
as a
okay.
great out.
So let me add this thought real quick because you mentioned that historically, at least in the 40 something years that you and I have known each other, I'm less geared towards heavy metal than you are. And I think Steve is also, he's pretty much into it, right?
Yeah, he's in
Okay.
between me and you. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So here's kind of how I would describe it. All right. Let's just say we have a linear scale. At one end of that line is rock, and at the other end is heavy metal. Okay. So as you're moving from the end that says rock towards heavy metal, I am going to tend to like it less. Okay. And so, there's no absolutes. There's over the years, there's been plenty of heavy metal music that I like, but just as a general rule, I'm less interested or attracted, or my ears are
Sure.
less geared towards heavy metal. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of great Ozzy from the '80s. So I have to say that when I actually started listening to the '80s Metallica, I found it to be, considering it's heavy metal, that's not necessarily my favorite. I found it to be intelligent and sophisticated. And the fact that you just drew this sort of parallel analogy, whatever, between that and classical music, I'm like, exactly, exactly. It has an appeal that I did not see coming. And I'm like, man, there's some great songs, great material from this.
They, it's also it's a tricky thing between arrogance and confidence of knowing. Like if you're this band, we could be the Ramones, and each song of the Ramones is 2 minutes and 4 seconds. That's an exaggeration,
But that's
but
about right, though.
right. So Metallica goes, no, we want to explore the space.
Explore the
And now I'm
space.
doing Christopher
Right.
Walken. So they want to explore the space. So their first, when I say the word hit, the first thing that launched them was a cover. I don't know how much you know about this. There's a British band called Diamond Head.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, and so they had this song called "Am I Evil?" question mark.
Okay.
And I think it came out, I don't know, 72, 73. How does Metallica hear this song? I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I would love to ask them about that. So they cover that song, "Am I Evil?" And they bring a more power to it. Although the original British song is really good. That's a good album, Diamond Head. And so then they're like, and then they got noted. Hey man, these guys are really good. That's a really cool song. That's a cover. Like they're like, no, what it is. We covered a British band. And so anyway, so that got them, you know, street cred with the metal people,
Okay.
right? And the people will say, okay, let me go back and give them a second. How many times we talked about this before? Have you heard an album once? Like, yeah, it's not blowing my skirt up. And then you put it down. You're doing the vacuuming. You're doing your chores. You're mowing the lawn. You're vacuuming, whatever. You put that, the album happens to pop on. You're like, this is pretty damn good.
Right.
A year ago, you weren't ready for it, and that's what goes back to the audience or the band. They know it's good. You've got to catch up.
Right.
Like you and
Right.
I had to catch up to Metallica.
Right. Right.
Metallica was way out ahead. Now Metallica also changed. Like the Black Album doesn't sound anything like their early stuff
Right.
by
Which
the
did
Lightning especially.
alienate a lot of their core audience at that time.
Yeah,
It,
but you know what?
the reason I'm mentioning that is because
You're right. No,
as a guy who really didn't know any of the previous material, I hear the Black Album and I go, this is amazing. And when I'm hearing people going, oh, it sucks, they sold out, I'm going, what? What?
it's there's a small, I don't know, 10, 15, 20% of the what you would call thrash crowd, and all they want to hear is da 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 da.
Right,
That's all they want to hear.
right,
And then you guys are like, I want to kill you.
right,
That's all they want to hear. If you make a melodic song, they put you on the kill list.
right, right,
Okay. And that's the beauty of Metallica and Megadeth. They can make these really heavy, 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 heavy songs, but keep them melodic.
right.
So, like, this woman I used to be with, she would say this, that, the other thing, and I'd see like, what's the melody of the song? I go, hum it to me. And I realized she couldn't do it. I realized she's an idiot. And like, hum the melody. No wonder you have no ear or taste in music because you can't hum the melody. You know what the melody is. So you go Inner Sandman, da, da, da. Like Inner Sandman's got a really record. And then when Metallica gets older, like this song, my number one song, and Metallica's weird with me because depending on the day, month, hour, phase of the moon, my favorite Metallica song changes.
Right, right.
But mine right now is Hero of the Day.
Oh, okay.
That song blows me away. No, 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 no. It's like the most haunting little guitar thing. You're like, oh my God,
Right,
they've got me right here. Like uh, Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello.
right.
They had me there. Like before he even starts singing, like, and the song is sad, but
Okay.
wow,
And what album is that from?
that's on Load.
I thought it was Load. Okay, just wasn't sure. All right. Okay, so just as a quick
Sorry about
catch
that
up.
ramble.
No, it's okay. That's part of what we do here. So my first entry was Enter Sandman, and yours was it one or was it what was it?
The whole it just one. Let's say one for right
Just
now.
say one. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to add just a quick thought to one.
Go ahead.
The first time I ever heard that, which was 30 years ago or something like that, it was in the aftermath of the Black Album. I didn't care for it. It was too hard. It was too metal. I was like, you know, it's funny though. I listen to it now and I go, my God, it is a genius. It's not just the songwriting and the playing, but the production of it's genius. It really is. It's like, wow, that is a masterpiece. And that kind of song right there is why the word epic exists, as far as I'm concerned, at least in this context. That song, that is a true epic. And by the way, we should just mention that the subject matter of the song is a soldier who got blown up by a landmine and got his arms and legs blown off, right? Isn't it something to that?
Yeah, so it's a movie called Johnny Got His Gun, written by Dalton Trumbo. And I don't know if you guys are in the movies. He's one of the most famous writers in the early days, like the 50s of Hollywood. He had a movie played by Bryan Cranston, played him.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant. And he was on the blacklist of the communism and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant, brilliant writer. And
Okay.
so he wrote this movie. I think it was made pretty like in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, the movie itself.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a haunting at the end. He's like, what is it? He's doing Morse code with his eyes or something, right?
Right, right.
He's like, what is he saying? Kill me, kill me.
Right. Yeah. So just for those, it's dark. This is dark stuff. Okay. But it's a great song. But yeah, the subject matter is very dark. Okay. So before I go to my next song, I want to mention this. I want to ask you a question real quick, completely off topic. But last week I sent you this video, The Relapse by the Von Hertzen
Oh
brothers.
my God. When I first played it, within a minute, I almost started crying.
Right.
I was like, what? I couldn't even speak right. I was like, what's wrong with me?
You reacted the same way I did.
Heard this? How come I haven't heard this? I sent it to like 30 people and counting, and every single person is blown away.
Right. Yeah. how can a rock song be that good and we're not hearing it everywhere? It should be. Okay. All right. I'm
No,
going to go back on topic, but I just want to say this.
no, no. So
If you have not
hold
heard
on,
the
you got to
Von
tell the
Hertzen brother, what? Go ahead.
yeah Von Hertzen brothers, the Relapse. I ordered the album, but I guess it's coming from Finland. Literally, it still hasn't got here yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh,
Oh,
it's
one other thing before
phenomenal.
we leave one.
Go ahead.
The other thing that helped one become even more epic than epic was, of course, Beavis and Butthead. When they play with that video, it is crying. And then
I
Beavis
don't
like, darkness, imprisoned me, it is in my heart. And then like Butthead's
I
like,
don't
settle
remember. I
down,
really
Beavis.
don't.
Oh my God, it's so funny because Beavis is doing the whole thing at the end of the song. And then Butthead's like, settle down there, Beavis. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, oh my God, it's just so ridiculously funny. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So my next choice selection is going to be Fade to Black. Okay. Now, the description that I'm about to give, it probably applies to a lot of Metallica's 80s material, a lot of their songs, period. But once again, it's a hard rock song, but just as the classical artists did way back when, you can sort of divide it into different segments where
Sure.
it's powerful and blasting, and then there's other parts where there's a time shift. It doesn't have to be slow, but it's slower, and they're able to mix these different elements. In the classical universe, they use the term movement. There would be the first
Yes.
movement and the second movement, yeah, whatever. These songs sort of mimic that whole idea, and they do it so brilliantly. And until you grasp that that's what they're doing, it can be confusing to the listener. As in, wait, wasn't this song fast a second ago? But think of all the epics that we've already talked about: Stairway to Heaven, Freebird, how they use that exact same technique. And to me, it's just one of those essential elements of what an epic should be. And so I think the song is about depression, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Depression and suicide, that sort of thing. Yeah, but just a really good song, and it has so many of the elements that they use so effectively in these great rock metal songs that they were making in the 80s. But other than the long hairs who were listening to them, the rest of us didn't know they existed.
Yeah, they're you know how another thing, this what I'm about to say is that what's called an unfair test.
Okay.
But an unfair test that Metallica does, that some other bands may be in too much in love with themselves to do it, but their album, The Garage Days, the part two, Revisited, they did a whole album of cover. They even covered
Covers.
their own songs.
Right.
And the covers they make, like their cover of the Bob
The Bob
Seger,
Seger
Turn the
song.
Page, it like I don't really care for his version that much, Bob Seger's, but their
Right.
version gets me emotional
Right.
every single time I hear it.
I like Bob Seger's. It's not on my top 10 list, but I like it. I think it's a good song. But what they did with it, I mean, they elevated it. It's unbelievable. It's so good. It's so good. And I am not a fan of covers as a general rule, not a fan of covers, but man, they knocked it
And
out of the
they
park.
and
Yeah.
the other one they knocked out of the galaxy is whiskey in a jar.
Yes. Yes.
Um, God, Thin Lizzy. I'm tired. So yeah, Thin Lizzy cover.
Yeah. It's
It's
okay.
just
Yeah.
mind-blowingly good. And you're
Yeah.
like, and the one thing about Hetfield, when he sings a word, you could understand what the word is. A lot of guys slur words or they
Right.
in my Molly's chamber, right? I mean, I could hear him perfect. Now,
Right.
no one's a bigger fan than Phil Lynott than me. So this
Right.
is a particular, but a lot of people. So when so when Metallica covers you, they find out what the words actually are,
Right.
and Hetfield sings those words, and
Right.
that's really funny. And I'm glad that you do that, brother, because I
Yeah.
can understand the words better. Because I don't have all day to go up and look at Genius lyrics while he's playing. What are the damn what is he saying?
Right.
So, but yeah, so Metallica, I think a lot of bands don't do covers because I think a lot of bands aren't talented enough to do it. And Metallica goes, yeah, we're super talented. And we're going
Yeah.
to take this song that's pretty damn good by Thin Lizzy, a masterpiece, and equal it.
I
Or,
think I think it's fair to say that if you look back over the decades, it almost every time an artist has chosen to do an album of covers, it's not commercially successful. It doesn't usually. Sometimes they can cover a particular single, whatever, and it might sell a lot. There's certainly good examples of that. But when they do an album of covers, it's usually not successful. And the thought you're left with is, why would I listen to this when I can just go listen to the originals, which are better, you know? So, but Metallica,
just
man,
kills it on theirs.
they do, and they. I hate to use this cliche. They made the songs their own. They injected so much of their own lifeblood into those songs that they changed them and made them into new songs. So
I mean,
anyway,
the only other album, I don't want to get off too much on a tangent, that does this, all covers, and it is mind blowing, is Rage Against the Machine. Steve and I have talked about that. Renegades of Funk. That album is it should be on Mount Rushmore along with this Metallica. It's all covers,
okay,
and they cover like Bob Dylan. Uh, you know that song Maggie's Farm?
yeah, yeah,
They cover it. It is just limitless good.
okay.
Okay, so let's go back to Metallica. Okay, you talked
Give me
about
your next contribution.
oh boy, I don't want to do a cover. Oh man, so I'll go back to like the one I was talking about, Hero of the Day.
Okay,
It just it starts out slow, and what's amazing what these people can do is conjure these emotions. Because this song, Hero of the Day, reminds me a lot of No Quarter. The topic of this, there's these battles, and you're going through snow, and and then someone says he lights the candle in the living room to light the way back home. So it's dark, it's foreboding, and you need this candle to figure out how to get home and for this lengthy battle. And his voice lends itself to this kind of
right.
grindage battle tested, and I'm not exactly sure exactly what the meaning of the song is. Like, there's a lot of high concepts in that song,
Right.
but go ahead.
He strikes me as a very intelligent guy, James Hetfield.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics to "And Justice for All," setting
Right.
aside one, he says like, you've been abused so long. When you finally get your freedom, you're not free because you're still traumatized by the past. And
Right.
it's freedom no longer frees you. That's the line in the
Right.
song. But anyway,
Right.
go ahead. Your turn. I don't know
Okay.
how much time we
Okay.
have left.
Well, we got our warning several minutes ago, so we won't go too much longer. Okay, my next choice is going to be Orion, which is an instrumental. Okay, and people don't really think of Metallica as an instrumental type of band, but again, the song is such an epic. Okay, now we did a show previously where we talked about progressive rock and how certain bands, Rush, Kansas, Yes, and there's plenty of others. That's sort of their specialty. It doesn't mean that they're not rockers, but the progressive elements, they tend to have more solos. They usually are longer pieces, and again, they can usually be divided into different sections where it might go faster, might go slower, might be harder, might be softer, and this song really gives me a progressive type of vibe. Again, it's an instrumental, but musically, it's just an amazing composition for me, and it really jumps out for me as one of their better songs, even though there's no vocals, and usually you don't place an instrumental that high, but for me, it's awesome.
Well, Metallica is a cool band because they have two guitar players. Obviously, Kirk Hammett is the lead, but Hetfield could. So I think it brings 100 different levels of the band when the lead guitar or the lead singer can play guitar and worry about the rhythm stuff,
Right.
and Kirk Hammett can go explore. So that lends credence to why it's a great song from a great band. You know, how much time do we have?
I
Because I'm
think
not
that was
sure I
from
even
I
go.
think that was from Master of Puppets, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Ride Lighting Master Puppets. Yeah, we're
Yeah, I'm not
missing
sure.
one,
Okay, we have 4 minutes remaining, so go give me one more song and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, I think it's the first song on Injustice for All called Blackened.
Yes.
And and there is a I've heard 100 other people try to do this style of music and they can't do it right. And Metallica is just blackened, and they start speeding up, and it's just the way it's perfect because it's not too much guitar. Like, do you remember we talked about this before with Mozart when he made his symphony for the king, and the king yawned,
Right.
and Mozart goes, "Well, what's wrong?" He goes, "It's too many notes." And Mozart says, "Well, which ones do we want me to take out?" Metallica doesn't have that problem.
Right.
This song Blackened is I can play the song right now in my head, and he is shredding, and it's like, but it doesn't grind.
Right.
I cannot explain it. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I do want to add, it's kind of a
Go
liberal
ahead.
song, you know. It's
Well,
about the threat of nuclear war and the death of Mother Earth, or it's very liberal kind of stuff. I'm not saying I don't like the
it's
song.
okay.
I'm saying the message is politically, it's not really stuff that we vibe
It's
with.
funny when you like if we got these bands talking, and I would say, "Hey, Metallica, why are you guys like super famous and rich and sold 100 billion albums? Because you're good, right?" Yes. I go, if Paul Fields did a song, it would sell 0 albums. So there's a meritocracy in the world. Metallica, super talented heavy metal band. Paul Fields, no talent, with 0 qualifications. So I would start there with people there because what you'll notice with people who are successful, a lot of them will attribute it to luck and not their skill because they don't want to
Right.
put down anybody
Agreed.
around them.
I agree. I agree.
So that's why I like when people just say, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm not better than you or anything, but
Yeah.
I'm good. I know what I'm doing, and it's
Yeah.
just the way it is." Humans have to accept that we all have our talents from God, and I
Yeah.
believe God gave every single one of us amazing talent.
He
But
did.
the
Yeah.
tragedy is we haven't found it. A lot
Yeah.
of people haven't found it. So that's why you get so jealous over this guy being good looking or next guy being 6'8", or whatever.
Right.
That's why people are jealous because they haven't found their inner purpose of greatness from God.
Right.
And and that's why people who do get it, they go, I like Eddie Van Halen once, a guy wrote in, he interviewed Eddie Van Halen. He goes, "Yeah, when I just play guitar, it's not rocket science." And the next month, a brain, no, it's not a brain surgery. The next month, a brain surgeon wrote in, "Hey, I'm Dr. Soso. I'm a brain surgeon, and I can't play what you can play."
Right.
So stop saying that. It's God given. God is working through you,
Yeah.
and and so that's how I feel about that.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up. I want to make one
Okay.
last comment and make this quick. And this is not an attack, but I think that when that whole Napster thing came about and
Oh
people
yeah.
were down, I think Metallica was on the wrong side of that. I really do. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think that was a bright moment for them.
Remember, they at that point now, we have that was what 30 years ago.
25, 25.
So if you were to interview them now privately, you might hear them say something. Well, this is what our label told us to do.
Yeah, perhaps right. Okay, whatever. We're not going to
Yeah.
go into that. This is the great classic
No,
rock debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. We love you for that. Until we meet again, see you later.